You're now listening to Caffe Conversations, the daily podcast series recorded at your favorite cafe featuring you and your most interesting stories. If you or someone you know has a compelling, endearing, or just plain funny story to tell, go to www.caffenero.com and tell us why you should be a guest on our next show.
My name is Chris Furlong, and I'm your host for Caffe Conversations. Today's guest is Rick from Reading, and this show's topic is love at first sight.
For a living, I am a database developer. I've been doing that for about 25 years.
Tell us, how do you take your coffee?
The way I learned to like it at my grandmother's house, straight up and not too hot. You know, after a while dancing, I was cooling off by the bar. I had my gaze toward the door, the entrance, and suddenly the room seemed to dim, and it was like there was a spotlight on one person who just came through the door. I had never experienced anything like this. I was very aware that I was having a very strange experience. I saw this person that I was sure I'd never seen before, and yet I had this intense feeling that I know this person very deeply. That turned out to be the woman that I married.
Today's guest is Genevieve, currently living in Somerville, and this week's topic, acts of heroics or bravery.
And the last one was, one day I'm going to save a life. And I thought, well, wow, that's pretty, bold of me to say. Here I've put it down, and if the time comes and somebody needs my assistance, if I'm not prepared and I don't know what I'm doing, I could just make things worse.
So basically, you decided, you had an affirmation and you acted on it.
I remember being on the phone with him and notice the car going in the opposite direction was flipping. And I watched it flip 2 more times before it landed in the divider.
So you were holding pressure for 20 minutes, nobody else helping you?
No, blood was just pouring down my hands.
Did it all come back to you in some sort of profound feeling that you were meant to be where you were at that moment?
I did it. I don't have to think about this anymore, do I?
Today's guest is Amy, currently living in Winchester, and this show's topic is brush with fame.
I am a surgeon.
And how do you take your coffee?
I take it with a little bit of milk, but when I'm out and about, I do like to indulge in a latte. Remember, I had been on an overnight shift, so like a 30-hour shift the day before. As Patrick and I get off the tram, I see my mom standing there, and she starts walking towards me, and then all of a sudden, these 3 men come out from around her and just start swarming towards me. And 2 of them have cameras. One of them has a microphone. I'm like, my first thought is, oh my God, am I getting punked? One thing you have to understand about all of us is that we are not attention-seeking people. We do not like being in the spotlight. And the guy asked, so, how does it feel to be home, for the holidays? Something like that. And I'm like, well, it's so great to be back in Pittsburgh. I love Pittsburgh. And it's just so great to be home with family for Christmas. I hear my boyfriend in the background go, it's Thanksgiving.
Today's guest is Brian, currently residing in Linfield, and this week's show topic is a brush with mortality. And what do you currently do for a living?
Currently manage a global reception team for a global law firm.
How do you take your coffee?
I order an Americano, decaffeinated with a splash of half and half, preferably iced.
Very good.
So today I'd like to tell the story of my brush with mortality and how I almost died skydiving. So what I didn't realize that on this particular day was that the pilot was monitoring the wind. And the pilot, from what I learned later, judged that there was a really strong wind coming from a certain direction, made them decide to drop me in a different spot, assuming that this wind would blow me back into the direction where the landing spot was at the airport. Sure, it's going to be fine, but geez, this is close. Okay, you know what? That tree's getting really close. And before I knew it, I started to lift my legs up thinking, okay, I'm going to skim the top of this tree, and then boom, I smashed into this tree. I feel pretty confident in saying that the 4 times in my life that I've jumped out of a plane are enough, and that's exceeded the quota that I probably should have had.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Caffe Conversations. Check out a new episode daily on Spotify.